Oh, let me share my.
Am I in your way?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oops. So let me see. Okay. So today we're going to do reflections of the Secret Doctrine from chapter 12. There are at least, I think, 24 essays here, and we'll probably cover the first 10. I think the author goes in, I mean, some of them are short, so we'll see how much we can cover today. And please feel free to provide your input, your opinions, your suggestions. So let's get started. So these are the essays, and I'm not going to read it over. It's a lot. Let's start with the first one. The first one is defining what a doctrine is. And going, right, okay, as the author says, right, a set of principles or a body of teachings related to a particular subject. So it's just not an idea or a concept. It's more than that. It must undergo a period of intense, crucial analysis by experts in that particular field. So the Secret Doctrine qualifies as a doctrine because it has gone through centuries and centuries of old wisdom. And undergone a lot of scrutiny. And here's the quote: it's not a multitude of seemingly unrelated teachings. It is not something that's absurd. It is very whole and coherent, outlining the ageless doctrine, a system thought based upon occult facts and universal truths inherent in nature, which are as specific and definite as any mathematical proposition. Does anyone have any further input on the definition of a doctrine? Okay.
Yes. I think in the as part of what we've read, it was said that a lot of these teachings, when it was discovered, they have to be verified by different adepts before it was accepted.
Yes, and we will come to that, I think, further down. Why? Yeah, that's true. Thank you, John.
So in a way, it's similar to the scientific processes whereby if somebody finds something, people don't just agree, but it has to be reviewed and checked.
Yeah, similar to peer review, right?
Yeah,
Is it
yes.
peer review and before something can be qualified? Yes. Thank you. Anybody else? So doctrine versus dogma. That is the second essay. A dogma is when we're forced to accept an idea or concept without the ability to question. And we know here in the Theosophical Society, we are free to question, and doctrines are guidelines that keep us from getting lost in the wilderness of contemporary information and opinion. And as we know, a lot opinions are aplenty, right? You ask anybody, everybody has an opinion, just like we all have 2 feet, right? But when rightly understood and well articulated, doctrine acts as a beacon of light for deeper understanding. So again, confirming a doctrine is something that has gone through scrutiny, but it's again, doesn't mean we just take it and believe in it. We we are able to question it and see the truth in it for ourselves based on our experience, and we can question it, discuss it, and I believe, in my personal opinion, there is no right or wrong answer. It is your personal truth. Doctrines can become dogma with an element of coercion. So that means that, well, when a certain group of people, when they force us to believe in a certain way, that's when a doctrine becomes dogma. When we're forced to accept an idea or concept without the ability to question or interpret. I think that's simple enough. Any input there?
Well, it also brings to my mind what the Buddha said,
Mm-hmm.
that don't believe in anything written in books. Don't believe in anything from your elders, but just whatever you've read or whatever you heard, just reflect. And then if it's reasonable and it is helpful to you and other people, accept it. So in a way, we shouldn't just take things just like that.
Exactly. And Buddha also says, right action, right time, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, that's what Buddha did. And there is a Buddha in all of us, isn't it?
I have to agree with John that the Buddha did give that teaching where you have to verify for yourself and don't just take it just because somebody with the authoritative figure telling you so.
Yes.
But he also said, everything absorbed in and at its own level. Like the rainfall, the tree will absorb a different amount of water, and the blade of grass will absorb different amount of water. So if the grass can only see as much as it can see, and the tree will see more than the grass because it absorbs more water. So your ability to see the truth is only at the level that you are. So is you have to consider that aspect as well. Just because you see things as true, it just means that you only see that much in the truth that you're capable
As far
comprehend.
as your consciousness is there, I mean, depending on your level of consciousness, right? Because we are all at different levels of consciousness. And speaking for myself, it's like what I was aware of maybe 5 years ago, there's some areas where I'm more aware of now. And it's like, wow, did I really believe that before? Or was I that? Yeah. Yeah.
So that's right. So when somebody say, oh, I don't believe because this is my personal view. Oh yeah, that is correct. You only see that much at this point, at this time.
Point, yes.
So and then you see a little bit more as you evolve.
Thank you for that, T. Yes.
Yeah, I have difficulty with the wording. I guess the wording to me is very difficult to distinguish. You have doctrine, you have dogma, you have belief, and then you have propaganda. So the different level of complexity involved in these wording. So to me, the problem with defining word, giving a definition to a word and trying to describe it, it may not capture the full concept or the full truth of what you're trying to convey. And like T say, the truth is always relative to the perceiver, right? The perceiver, based on his level of consciousness, may perceive the truth in a different way than someone else at a different level of consciousness. So I think it's difficult for us because we often get lost in the wording and then we miss the whole point altogether.
I agree with you, Trey. That is a good observation, a propaganda is misleading or biased information, right? And then it all ties back to what T says. That's why we have to go within us, and and as we go into further into the doctrine, we will see how we can connect. We can actually are powerful to connect to the absolute truth and find the and connect with that unseen truth if we are so willing to, right? Because in this world there is so much information, we know, right? Misleading information, biased information. And I think it's for each of us to discern for ourselves the truth, or what's true for us.
Well, Chick was saying propaganda, dogma, and doctrine. Doctrine is pretty clear what is stated here already. It is a body of knowledge over billions of years and verified by adepts and Diana Chohan. The dogma is you being forced to believe without verifying it. You just have faith. That's basically, it's asking you to have faith in it and don't question it. The propaganda is with behind the background of that action has a different intent for that particular group of people or society or country. That's a propaganda that I see. But the one that bring us to unity, to unite us all, is the one that that the action had to go toward and serve the purpose of the whole. Propaganda doesn't do that.
And dogma doesn't do that because you're forced to believe, like people who drank the Kool-Aid, right?
Right.
Jesse, do you have something you want to say?
A little gray button.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, can you hear me? Well, the doctrine is, I guess it boils down, dogma and doctrine, I guess it boils down to the individual. When they're faced with something that is presented to them as a fact or evidence or the truth, and well, you can question doctrine. You can say, is this true? Was it true back then? Is it still true now? You can ask questions about it. Dogma, it's either you accept it or you're excluded from whatever the dogma is in place for. How I see it, propaganda. Yeah, that's just I guess, persuasion. Making a statement and hoping or geared in such a way that people accept it or might accept it as the truth by some form of persuasion, whether it's like this is someone that looks like you and saying this about people that don't look like you. That's kind of like propaganda, and you can either take the statement or leave it. Sometimes propaganda, it has a grain of truth to it. That's why it's so effective. But is it true all the time? That's where doctrine comes in. Not little, but these rules, I guess, that you can test for yourself. Whereas dogma,
you go out and you test it and you come up with these results that are contradictory to what the dogma says, hey, you still have to accept it. Force comes in various ways. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me.
So my question is, for example, Christian, the Christian belief that there's no reincarnation. Is that a dogma?
Well, that is not entirely true. Which Christian are we referring to? The ancient
Well,
Gnostic Christian,
the
or
Roman
the
Catholic, essentially the Roman Catholic in I think the 1500th century removed that context about reincarnation from Christianity.
right? That I think around 553 AD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they substitute that. They remove that and they substitute that because they lost, and then so they have to substitute for what is it they substitute, John?
One life.
No, they substitute reincarnation teaching from the true Gnostic Christian, and they substitute it for what is it? I forgot the actual term, but they did change that and to fit into their view, and that's right there to advertise a particular view for a group of people. That's propaganda right there. Also, well, I'll just leave it as that.
Okay.
But it might also be a dogma, right? Because you are forcing people to believe it.
For the people who believe it, then are not in a different level of consciousness, who don't question it, who just accept it as truth. That's what it is. When you accept something as truth and you don't question it for yourself, that's when it becomes dangerous, right?
When it becomes dogmatic, yes. So it's true no matter what the evidence is to the contrary. Yeah, as far as Catholics, yeah, the Catholic faith does not include reincarnation as, and it's not so much like a dogma that reincarnation is not true. It's just that, well, that's what other people believe.
Okay.
So with the Catholic view is that you have a soul, an eternal soul that is indestructible, and depending on whether or not you've accepted certain teachings as the truth, Jesus is your Savior, so on and so forth, and many of the core Christian beliefs, and you adapt your life accordingly. It varies, but as far as Catholics, it's mostly faith combined with your actions. If you have the faith and you behave according to the dogma, it's like you go to reconciliation, which is where you go to the priest and confess your sins. He absolves you of your sins, and then you participate in the other sacraments, communion, marriage, holy orders, etc., etc. If you conduct yourself according to the dogma, then it's that you are likely to go to heaven when you're in the presence of the Almighty. And if you don't, then I guess I think purgatory is the Catholic invention. So when you're in purgatory, you go through. It's sort of like a reincarnation, but it's not, because you continue with the same soul. Only that soul is in a different realm of existence, where you are being purged of all of the bad things. And that's where I have a lot of my questions. prevents any other interpretation of it, what the clergy have decided is the truth. And a lot of that is a legacy from, you know, the Old Testament, the clergy in the Old Testament. A lot of what's written there is very much dogmatic, especially Deuteronomy, Leviticus, those earlier books right after Exodus, where they're setting down the rules of what it means to be, I guess, a Hebrew, a practicer of Judaism.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Should we move on?
Yeah, Jesse, thank you. The word I forgot, Jesse just brought it up, is purgatory. Purgatory, that's what they replaced with. The teaching of karma. The teaching of karma now replaced with the concept and the teaching of purgatory. So they have to, and then they bring up, everybody has sins as soon as they are born. So that's the alteration right there. That's Jake was mentioned that the Catholic did on the teaching. But if you go further back, there's no such thing as purgatory in the teaching anywhere in the Gnostic Christian. And if you even go further back, there's no such thing as hell either. Every action has a proportionate effect to its original action. There's no such thing as forever eternal damnation or forever in heaven. There's no action that could cause you to have forever bliss or forever punishment. Every action has a proportionate reaction to that action. So if you do something bad, you're gonna be affected by the negative that you cause, disharmonizing it until that is reharmonized, and that's it. You don't go forever into the dogma and the teaching say you're going to be forever in purgatory.
Right.
There's no, that's illogical, and in making you believe that, that's dogma. That's dogmatism.
Thank you. Should we move on to defining secret?
Yep.
Wow. Secret. I think we all have secrets, right? And we know what a secret is. And you said something only a few know, known only to a few. When you think you know, you say tell someone something. Okay, this is a secret. No, don't tell anybody. Next thing you know, the secret, for it's whispered everywhere. An unexplained or inscrutable process of fact. So what is as far as the Secret Doctrine say? Knowledge of an esoteric society which is concealed or veiled from the gaze of the uninitiated. And it comes to mind like what was only a certain people know. What's the group that used our lodge for meetings?
Masonry.
The Masons.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight-knit group, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The masonry, there's a lot right here, and then there's co-masonry as well. The folks that actually utilize our lodge is the co-masonry folks, which include both man and woman. Yeah.
And initially it was just for men, and then you have to be initiated in there to get in there. And there's certain groups where you have to be initiated.
Yeah. Yeah, to be invited, and then you got to go through the process and get
So as we see here, as what the author says, that thoughts, the secret doctrine is not, and I think Trey, T, you brought this up also, a secret doctrine is not complete. There are still things that were left out because we, in humanity, was not ready to accept. So here's what Madame Blavatsky says: what is contained in the secret doctrine has been found scattered throughout thousands of volumes embodying the scriptures of the great Asiatic and early European religions, hidden under glyph and symbols, and hitherto left unnoticed because of this veil. So, and then it says the real secrets alluded in the secret doctrine cannot be shared or disseminated, but they may be discovered. So here again, of course, I have not read the secret doctrine, but just by reading it, it is encouraging. It encourages people to read it, absorb it, and experience it for themselves, and not just take it as the truth. Right?
Right. The secret doctrine is no secret. It is there in plain view. But us, we are just not able or capable of seeing it for ourselves.
Comprehending it.
Right. It just is in us. It's already in us because we are that teaching in us. We are that teacher in us already. We just have to come and have give us time to
Exactly
evolve, to recognize that.
Yes,
It's not something that's created. It is there in us.
it is there.
Already, all along.
And yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so, and because the truth, what we call the truth, is spanning across all 7 different planes, and we are only working and operating in the playground of the terrestrial, the physical plane, and we're just making to the mental. We are the child of our emotional. We are a slave to our emotional. We are just nowhere near of seeing the truth in its entirety.
I think we're also a slave of our own thinking, analytical thinking, because as we go along in this book, you'll realize Madame Blavatsky was chosen by the adepts to bring forth this information.
Right.
Because the adepts the adepts had known it, but they never revealed it for a long time. It was kept a secret again because humanity was not ready to accept. And what I'm saying is everything in the secret doctrine is what was experienced. And because Madame Blavatsky was at a level of consciousness where she could receive these messages and put it in a form for us, it is beyond this 3D world.
Right.
Beyond.
The other thing that you when we read the book of Theosophy, we need to know who wrote the secret doctrine. If we flat out say, "Oh, Blavatsky," then we're just so wrong.
No, it's not Blavatsky. Well,
the Blavatsky is part of this co-author. It called triple author, 3 author. Okay, in writing this, this knowledge is giving. Blavatsky is the agent. That's what Mahatma K.H. and Mahatma Moria using this agent to deliver the teaching at the proper amount for that particular time frame that we are in now. So who's the author of the Secret Doctrine? There are 3 of them: Master Moria, Mahatma K.H., and the agent, which is Helen Petrovna Blavatsky. So it is not what, when we refer back to what the teaching say, it is not what Blavatsky said. It is the body embody of knowledge throughout billions of years dispersed through this channel to us.
Yeah,
Okay.
it came through her to be written, right? So it came from the adepts through her as an agent and then through the people to write it. Somebody, so
Now let me make another point that when this, if you read about the history of how the TS and how this was forming at the formation, Blavatsky didn't listen with her ear and write down this knowledge. She has to go out of her body and seeing the astral light and reading this and understand this and put it back into ink on paper for us.
that's
Every
right.
every day she's planning this. She's working from in the morning all the way to 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening every day for us, for humanity, to give out this teaching. She was tasked with this. She spent and dedicated her whole life to to complete this project for humanity. You just think about that. So every time you touch that book, you're not touching, you touching the very across time, the divine, the wisdom, knowledge over a long period of time. Ever since this first round, this fourth round, which is over 1,000,000 years ago, this knowledge has been collected and put together at the beginning of every round by the Dyer Chohan, and then by the Mahama at the end by the spiritual teacher. So all of these people are the one that are responsible for giving out the teaching. So far, in this fourth round, we only have 4 spiritual teachers, which we call the Buddha. The 5th one hasn't come yet. And they are responsible for giving out guiding. It's just like a school system. The district give out the guideline for every school in the system, and then the teacher carry out those teaching for the class that they're in. Similar to that.
So basically, from the unseen, unknown to the known, she had to go out. I mean, that is crossing. That's what it means, crossing the veil, right?
Right. She
And
has to go through the ring past knot.
right.
The ring past knot, if you read it, you must understand what this is. Guarded by the Labika. Okay. Nobody in their natural life or natural reincarnation anywhere near a future reincarnation can pass through this ring past knot unless there is a Maha Pralaya and everything retract back and you're gonna cross that ring past knot. So she able to do this because she at the level where she can do this.
And
That's why she was chosen to do this.
yes, I think that goes into the next chapter very well. Does anybody has anything else on the secret, the defining secret?
No, good. We're good.
Okay, so so very well segue T on why it was Madame Blavatsky. At the top of the essay, we'll go see because she had the unique mental and physical abilities. She was served as a messenger for the great ones in the service of humanity. And it was a collaborative effort with various adepts. Due to her unwavering dedication, her unique mental and physical abilities, right? But why the secrecy? Why didn't the adepts come forth themselves? Because they already learned their lessons from human nature over the years, the prejudices, they didn't want people to just blindly worship the words that, or follow. And they knew that they were going to get hostility and be persecuted.
They also know the nature and the current time of development of human. We are more attracting to the negative than we do with the positive.
Exactly.
by right now, we're not near that balance level where we can make the decision for ourselves and on our own and do, balance out. We are very in us. We in our DNA to make it easier. We attracted more, a little bit more to the negative than we do with the positive.
And we can see that, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I like this passage here. In common with many, you blame us for our great secrecy. This is from the Adepts. And yet we know something of human nature. For the experience of long centuries, ages has taught us. And we know that so long as science has not anything to learn, and a shadow of religious dogmatism lingers in the hearts of the multitudes, the world's prejudices have to be conquered step by step. As Ori antiquity had more than one Socrates, so the dim future will give birth to no more than one martyr. So slowly but surely it will be unveiled.
Right. But at
And
the
we
same time,
see
they also mentioned, the Muhammad also mentioned, everything that's unveiled is
Mhm.
going to be absorbed by both sides,
Oh yeah,
by the white side and the black side.
of
So,
course.
they have to be very careful what they, unveiling, because people can use this knowledge for, their own good and not for the whole humanity good. That's why there's a time that they pick to give out this knowledge, and usually at the last quarter of the last century of every century or every cycle. It's just like the four season, that they pick a particular uh, time to give out this sea of knowledge for the next cycle of evolution. So it wasn't so random that they picked at the last part of the century to give out this knowledge. There's a reason why they picked that. At that time, that's when it's needed most, and it's one the less effective on the black side. There's a reason why they give it, and they're not giving it at the beginning of the cycle.
Right. And it also goes to say at the end of the essay, the great ones will continue to work under the radar, so to speak, for the benefit of a world that is not quite ready to acknowledge its unseen benefactors. Will never be revealed. Any more thoughts on what we have discussed so far?
I have a question on the last sentence.
Mm-hmm.
As Hori, antiquity has more than one Socrates, so the dim future will give birth to more than one martyr. What do you understand by that?
Yeah, so it's saying in the past, there has been more teaching giving out, and people representing this teaching in the past, giving out this teaching and sacrifice their lives for it. And it won't be any different than the future. There'll be more of them going to sacrifice their life for this knowledge to bring it out, because we are so underdeveloped, to say the least.
Okay.
I think Jesse has feedback.
So, yeah, similar to what.
Go ahead, Jesse. I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Closer, yeah.
I just had the microphone.
A little louder, yeah.
So there were more than one wise man, so to speak. And Socrates, the interesting thing about him was that he basically was given a hemlock at the end of the talk. Isn't that him? That Socrates?
Mhm.
So he imparted a lot of wisdom to the people of his time. And as a reward, they gave him a bowl of hemlock to ingest, in other words, to kill himself. I forget what the exact circumstances were, but he was accused of some crime in Greece, and he ended up taking his own life by drinking hemlock. And it was interesting that they picked him because he is a wise man. And at the end of his life, after he had imparted all this wisdom to the contemporary society, that's how he was rewarded. So it looks like what is predicted here is that others with that wisdom will come forth and be martyrs, be sacrificed in the name of, I guess, when we look back at what happened to Socrates, he probably had a lot more to offer. But I guess the people of the time weren't ready, or maybe someone with power back then was threatened by him. Or he threatened the societal makeup of the time, and so he was eradicated. There will be others that come and I guess put forth this wisdom for us to benefit from, but they will threaten the established hierarchies, and so they will their lives will be taken. That's what I get from it.
Thank you, Jesse. Anybody else before we move forward?
Yep.
So it's occurring to me that I guess Timothy and Shanthi might be one of those future martyrs who might be sacrificed.
Oh my!
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, John.
That's very that's very thoughtful of you, John.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness, that's fun.
Don't you want to become a legend?
Yes, I will be a legend. I will leave my legacy here.
So-
That's a good thought. Oh my God.
Sorry.
The previous previous slide about why the secrecy. Have you read about the library, the Alexandria library, about around the time of 50 BC?
Yeah, it was burned down.
Yes, but many in the past have also all the antiquity teaching, including Plato, Socrates. They all got destroyed somehow, and there must be a way to preserve that secret teaching in paper form. In astral form, they'll always be there.
Right.
Okay, but in paper form, for those of us that flocking along in our evolution right now on the playground of Earth, we need a way to tap into this knowledge, and we couldn't tap into using our higher ability just yet. So we need to use it at a lower ability, which is reading text on a paper. These need to be preserved too. So
Mm.
why the secrecy? Because everything that ever good, ever written for humanity was destroyed by humanity.
Well, and people were persecuted, and we know that for true, right?
Right. They do that because they have a certain agenda of their own.
Yeah.
If you were born in the back in time when the king and queen time, and if the sorcerer telling you the uncle has a coming up with a boy that gonna take over your throne, what you gonna do? The king gonna order every child that born in during that time frame to be killed.
Mm.
And what was tried before.
Yes,
Yes, it was done.
during Krishna time, and
Yes.
also Krishna also in that same boat where he had to be snuck out of the palace to run away from this killing. So what do? We didn't do anything that's good for humanity. We do things on our own view, agenda, propaganda.
And it's getting just worse. We
Yeah.
are.
So why the secrecy? We are the reason why there's have to keep it as a secrecy.
But I think as individuals and as Theosophists, our job is to continue
Yeah.
on the path, and we
Right.
will see how when we well, I think that's towards the end of the chapter, but then to be on that path is not easy. It is climbing a mountain, but we continue to climb the mountain and to read and to experience it. Really, I want to master the experiencing it more than just reading it. I want to go across that veil and experience it.
Oh, you don't go across the veil. You just evolve into it.
I want to evolve into it.
Yeah, it cannot
Okay.
be it
but
cannot be made. It's just you have to evolve yourself into it.
but you can
And
evolve into it to get the messages from the other side, bring it into you, and disperse it into your community. That is the job. I mean, that is part. I believe part of Joseph is yeah. You share what I mean, what you can, and
so I just want to bring that why the secrecy. Just look to have a hard look into our history of brutal and that we are. That's the whole reason it has to be protected. It has to be initiated into, because once you initiate into, you are keeping it and upholding
it become
humanity.
once you initiate it, you hold it as truth, as in you believe it, right? That's it. Jesse, do you have something else to say? No?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Should we move on?
Yep.
All right, we are greater than we know. See, this is it. We are greater. How little do we know which we are, how less what we may be. This is from Lord Byron's epic poem, Don Juan. Our sense of identity is formed by appearance, culture, media, environment, religion. All of these have shaped us into who we are, into our personality. And to limit ourselves to this is to ignore our true essence. There's profound mystery at the very core of who we are being. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Going to the very core of who you are and being connected to the very core of who you are to get to know we are powerful human beings. Now, what's interesting is he used the word fundamental. Fundamental means crucial. He didn't just use any word, right? Fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul, as it appears in the third fundamental proposition of the Secret Doctrine and Emerson's explanation of the oversoul. It is undefinable, unmeasurable, but we know it pervades and contains us. The oversoul can only be known through intuitive perception and not by any mathematical equation. And fundamental here, it means to mirror. I mean, exactly the same. Not identical, but mirror. So does that mean, so we've heard the term, we are a mirror of our creator, right? Then why? And what happened to us? How do we all lose it? How do we get so far from our true essence that we start hurting, killing each other? Our own kind. What happened?
Is that the question for us?
Yes, I'm meditating on the question right now. Yes.
Well, it
Uh,
has to do with ever since. Well, it has to start from the top. If you start right in the middle, you get confused even more. But the key here is why we become like the way we are because of mind. Ever
yes.
since because of mind created. Before mind, we are the same essence as the absolute.
Yes. Yes.
After mind evolve into mind, mind create individual consciousness. Individual consciousness establish in make us ignorant of who we forgot who we truly are. Through that, and they keep on going down from there. Individual, and we form an identity based on our mental formation. That is the idea of me. Me is nothing more than the mental formation that you keep holding it from one life to another life, to another life, to another life, and cling on to it and never want to let go of that mental formation. That get us in trouble. That cause separation. Illusory cause us separation. In reality, we not separate at all in our core essence. This idea of me making it separation from the absolute as an illusion. But it in a grander view, okay, let's stop there and jump out in grander view. This Maya that we're in is the engine. It is a way for the absolute to know itself. Because without this illusion, the absolute can never know itself. It's just like the ocean can never know itself until the droplet of that ocean swing out, spud up from the surface of the ocean into the air, and then look back at itself. That droplet of water in the ocean travel 311 trillion years and then come back with the individuality experiences that it's gone through and join back to the ocean water again with those individual knowledge. That bringing that knowledge is what making it universal soul.
So I believe all of us have the capability of connecting our soul with the universal soul if we so wish to, and not be so conditioned with our environment, the mind, the religion, the dogma, or whatever we've been so programmed with over the years. Coming back to our true essence of who we are. And another thing, reading the last paragraph, right? when we see each other, and not being judgmental because of where they came from or their culture or whatever, seeing them in their true essence, right? So here, the dwelling on our personality quirks and preferences is like skimming the surface of a vast body of water, discovering the mystery at the heart of our being, say the sages, requires diving into the depths of human consciousness. Then one may come to know what one truly is. And that to me is like getting to know someone's mind. Going back to what T said, we are multidimensional human beings. And what you see is just a facet of or something so much deeper that sometimes we don't take time to see and understand. And may we see each other without any judgment and see people at the very core of who they are, the spiritual essence. Any other comments on Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the root cause is misidentification, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that misidentification, like Tim Boy say, it starts the moment we were born,
Mm-hmm.
right? The moment we were born, our parent would give us a name,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is essentially divide us.
And then we
We
get
we
dolls to
become
play
that me,
with.
and then as we grow up, we would take care of our body, take care of our emotion, and our mental, and so on. So we further on build on top of that. So the me continue to grow, and so it's just a matter of misidentification. So if we look at it in a different way, think of the physical body as a vehicle or an instrument. Think of the mental body as a physical another instrument. Think of the emotional body as another instrument for us to use at the core level. Our essence is that spirit. If we can connect with that spirit and
Yes.
drive this instrument, then that's the best. But unfortunately, our selfishness does not allow us to let go of that.
And
Maya.
yeah, true.
That is right, Trick. You bring up a point where our selfishness, our holding on to our identity is not letting go. Because in order for us to merge and recognize into our true essence, we have to let go of our personal identity. And we associate that with death when we let go of that
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah, which is so wrong. And if I may add that, I mean, for the work that I do, I've come across so many people who are not connected to their spirit and the spirit of who they are. And for whatever reason, right? It could be any trauma or any experience that they went through life. Now, this, from what I know and understand and help, the spirit will never leave the body. The spirit is always there, it's always connected. But whether they are one, coming together and working together and compatible, I mean, collaborating together to work, that's a whole different story. And I think that's what's happened when body and spirit, because spirit is always there to guide you on your, and will it's to guide you not for your selfish purposes, but for overall good of your highest good and the good of everyone, not personal agenda. But I think as you can see from where we are, a lot of people acting on personal agenda. From personality rather than spirit.
Yes, the true.
And I think
Go
Jess,
ahead.
yes.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah.
What Shanthi said
Yes.
about being multidimensional, multidimensional being.
Oh, I can't hear you again, Jesse.
You mentioned about humans being multidimensional beings.
Right.
That is what I was, the very last line at the bottom of the page, fundamental identity means to mirror. And I was thinking about when you look in a mirror, what do you see? You see a two-dimensional image of at least three-dimensional being. So it's not identical, right? At least in that aspect, that there's a depth to the person looking in the mirror, and what they see in the mirror is not really them. Very similar. The image is very much the same, but in a way, it's also the opposite, because the image is switched from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not identical, it's very similar. I don't know, I've been wrestling with that idea, the multi-dimensional being, it sort of snapped in my head, that I can understand how, one soul is representative of, I guess, the oversoul. I'm not, these are new terms for me, but the oversoul being that fountain that we're all droplets of.
So when yeah, is that the word multi-dimensional that that's the question that you have about? Or
well, no, I was just remarking that that's where my thinking was.
okay.
When you mentioned the multi-dimensional, it's not just the three dimensions that our body.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's also our consciousness. It's
Yes.
also conscious and our spirit. So
Yes.
all these other things that
Right.
comprise an individual, and then I'm listening to what I'm sorry, I don't know the other gentleman's name, but that was commenting. When I interrupted, I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Yeah.
He was saying that in order to, I guess, reach that level of enlightenment, we have to lose our identity and become one, the oversoul. I know he didn't say that, but it sounded like he was sort of. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you lose the identity. The fact that you don't lose any identity here, in terms of, I would comment on the term multidimensional. We are essentially a multidimensional entity of being. The fact that we have our emotional body, we feel certain things, that is one body. We of course have our physical body, which you can see and act and move. And then there's our mental body, which is the mind itself. Each one of those are considered a different dimension. our physical body exists in this physical realm, this terrestrial realm that we're working in. But our emotional body does not exist in this realm itself, it's at a higher realm. And then our mental body is even at a higher level realm. So we are in fact multidimensional entity. The problem is we misidentify we as a consciousness, that spiritual consciousness. We misidentify ourselves with those bodies, right? When in fact we are not those bodies. Those bodies are essentially the vehicle for us to use, right? So you cannot literally eliminate the identity with these bodies. You know, there's no one person that's alive that would lack the physical body or lack the mental body or lack the emotional body and still be able to operate properly. You need all these bodies or all these vehicles to operate in the world. The problem is we misidentify ourselves with these bodies and we become attached to it. And that selfishness, now we misidentify what our goal is, right? And that's what I'm trying to say here.
Which is true. I agree with you, Trey. So as we learn, I guess in yoga, right, we have five. We have the physical, the five pancha kochas, right? And we cannot dismiss all of. I mean, it's all there for us when we have to function with all five. The way I look at it, it's like having 5 children, but you only keep feeding one. You only keep feeding the physical body, not the spiritual body or the etheric body, the energetic body, the prana, the intellectual body. So the mind, right? All of it have to be fed. And by reading, we enhance our intellectual, our knowledge. We have to keep our body, maintain the body, right? We feed it, we clothe it, but that's not the ultimate focus. We have to give equal focus to all 5 of them.
Yeah, and the term that most of the time is they use the term master, be your own master. Who is the master here? Is it your physical body, the desire to eat, to drink, and so on? Is it your emotional body? You know, the craving, the sensation, the pleasure, and so on. Is it the mind who is the master here, or is it someone else? And so it all have to do with gaining the knowledge and the wisdom to eventually see that who is the real master in this particular case. When we live, who is the real master? Are we being controlled by the body? Are we being controlled by our emotion? Or are we being controlled by our mind?
But with the mind, there's several levels of the mind. We're talking about the higher mind, the soul, the spirit. That is a different mind than the lower mind. So we can be controlled by either. And, knowing the difference. And, to me, the higher mind is your spirit or and higher consciousness.
Yeah, going back to the question why we end up the way we are, and Dick just hit it on the head, is the misidentification. We identify, instead of identify with the eternal and absolute unchanged, we identify with the evanescent, the thing that's always changing. And because it's always changing, we keep on making new identity that to keep up with this personal ego as our identity. And we keep clinging on to this changing world as our identity. Therefore, we are lost in the Maya. So all that needed is just a correction in the direction of our toward our true essence, true nature. That is all. It just that identification was misplaced,
Mm.
and that cost us a whole lot.
But I also like to add that, well, two things. The fundamental identity of all souls, of the universal oversoul, is normally interpreted that we are all gods, and that the God Spirit lives within us. Another thing which I also like to bring up is that even getting to know ourselves is not a one life work. It's a work that involves several incarnations. And with incarnations in front of us, we come to realize deeper and deeper aspects of ourselves, and that we should consider ourselves as seekers. We don't have, some of us might not have the inner realization that we are gods, or we have all the godly powers, although it's there, but we cannot manifest. I cannot manifest them. So we have to come to that realization that this is a work of incarnations.
Yeah, among the adept, there's no concept of God. The God is a concept. God is a concept of two people that don't understand things, and they see everything that they don't understand. They call that magic, God. Like if you're behind in your evolution, you look up, you call the people that have gone before you God. They don't, among the adept themselves, they don't give themselves that title. The title was given by the people that's behind, and that's the misconcept. Power, also another thing that's misconcept. Power to do what? You evolve at certain level, you inherit that ability. It's just natural, no given. So there's no such thing as power. Power, you have the idea. You already formulate an idea of what power means. To show off, to compare, to do what? So the concept already wrong when it started. To have power, to me, it is. We already start out wrong when we trying to articulate that.
Yeah. Should we go on? That next one? Yeah, I think I already read this last passage, how, delving deeper to know the true essence of someone, right? Theosophy being a living tradition. So it's not just a fabrication made up by Madame Blavatsky. It's an integral part of esoteric tradition extending back to thousands of years. It also speaks to our times, just as it will continue to speak to future generations. So the Secret Doctrine have the power to radically transform the manner in which we react and interact with the world about us. And I think this is what something Jesse mentioned earlier on when we talked about what the doctrine and dogma. If it's the truth and truth, it has to permeate throughout time, right? Not just today, tomorrow, or 100 years ago. It speaks to us today. It will continue to speak to future generations, just as it spoke many, many years ago.
Yes, and that's called wisdom.
Mhm.
Wisdom is goes across time frame, versus physical intelligence is just serving at that particular time frame.
But wisdom also is, okay, we read the Secret Doctrine, that is becomes knowledge to us. And unless we practically use that knowledge to experience it for ourselves, it will never transform to wisdom. It will still stay as knowledge. If we read the Secret Doctrine and continue to react and interact with people in a nasty way or judgmental, we don't, nothing has gone in, nothing has changed. It is,
Right, but at least you're right. At least, but when you read those stuff, those kind of knowledge, it kind of slowly it set us in the right direction.
it will. And
Yes.
that's what it says in the beginning. It has a way of transforming us. The Secret Doctrine has a way of guiding us into this. Can't remember the word they use. Right in front. One of those words. Guiding us to. I can't remember the word. Yeah, but anyway. Which is true. So it is for us to read and
Yes.
to soak it in and to experience it for ourselves.
Yeah, to me the key word here is living. Live.
Living, yeah.
Yeah, wisdom is about living the right way. That's what wisdom is. Knowledge is nothing unless you live it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I think we all agree on that point. So we can go
Yep.
into the next one. Mundane secrets and transcendent mysteries. So here I put a picture of a high-rise building. Oh, so imagine now you live in New York, but you're on the ground floor. The ground floor. Or if you want to close your eyes and just imagine you're on the ground floor on a beautiful high-rise, but in front of you, you walk out your apartment, all you see is all the busy street, the taxi drivers, the noise and the hustle and the bustle. That's all you see in and out every day, living there on the ground floor. Now, someone at the top going up into the penthouse, you go up the elevator. And this is the view you miss all along because you stayed in the ground floor for all these years. But you missed the beautiful view of the whole city. You have a panoramic view of the city as opposed to the street level. And sometimes when in our minds, we all live in our own world, right? Our own minds, our little world. And unless we transcend and look at life from a grander perspective, a greater view, there is more happening than in our small little world that we live in. Viewing humanity from a broader perspective, the movement of people going about their business, with all their concerns, their hopes, their fears, their private thoughts, their innermost secrets. And we all carry a story. We all have a story. We have a story. And the only way to evolve and transcend is to ask ourselves, do we want to continue to live that story? Or you will want to change the story? Or by changing the story and living from a grander perspective, a different view, taking a different path? Because if we don't take a different path, we don't study or gain more knowledge and wisdom, we will definitely be on this autopilot life which will just automatically carry us based on the little world we live in. So beyond the secret shelter in our consciousness, there's something that exists at a much deeper level, and it's a mystery. It's a mystery, but we all have the opportunity to discover that mystery. Secrets are known at least to the possessor and can be revealed or explained. There's a difference between a secret and a mystery. What's a mystery? It can never be fully explained to the satisfaction of the rational mind, beyond the scope of biologists, neurologists, geneticists, or true mystery. And I don't know about that sentence because science is catching up to the mysteries. Science is catching up. So they may be slow, but they're catching up.
I'm not so sure though.
I am not sure about either.
I-
They are
well-
catching up to the metaphysical side, quantum physics side of things, but they're still physical.
You know, let me ask one question to science. Can science explain to me what love is?
You know what? Okay, from my perspective, life is experiential. It's not words, right? I mean, I think the word love has been used so freely and loosely. Love in so many different ways. It's so vast and generic, right?
It's called a mystery. That's what it is.
There is no mystery to love. It is what it is. But people you take a word and you twist it 100 different ways, it can mean 100 different things, depending on the person that's using it.
You
Jesse
mean
has something to say. Hold the mic closer to you. Okay.
The mystery about it is it can't be quantified. Science can't quantify it.
Yeah.
Where it's going to manifest itself.
Thank
Love
you.
is such an amorphous thing. Some people may never experience it. Someone that you might expect would, someone physically attractive or whatever, just never experiences what true love is for whatever reason. But I'm gonna speak on this one.
It's a different level.
And as far as the thing about science is, I've been looking at it more and more, and I think a lot of science is just a tool. First of all, it's just a tool. It's a process, right? The scientific process. That's what science is. It's not like we were talking about earlier. It's not this set codification of rules and dogma. And especially in the realms of like archaeology, which I'm very interested in, I spend a lot of time reading about. But even in other areas, astrophysics, quantum physics, there are disagreements among the scientists even at that level. And so, to me, just the very fact that the universe, when you use that 3 syllables to describe something so incredibly fast, to say that science is catching up.
I think what I meant is science. I mean, people, neuroscientists, they are beginning to accept the fact of these mystical experiences.
Some more than others. Yeah. Some more than others.
But I'm sure, look, if you reflect back, so I agree with your explanation, Jesse. If you look back at your life, and I'm sure every one of us can have had a mystical experience in their life, they can never logically say how this has happened to them. Now, I've had many instances where it's so mystical. My brain couldn't even think how it could have happened, and brought people and together to make something happen. Think about it. We all have had mystical experiences. So, right?
Yep.
Yeah, those are the moments. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about science. We have to go back into the teaching where how the physical, the atoms and everything that we call physical is formulated. It's coming from, according to the teaching, is from the higher, from the spirit. Then come the matter, right? So if we operate in matter, if scientists operate in matter and push everything in horizontally to the infinity, but horizontally, it's just still in the matter. And another thing is they use equipment that's outside of themselves to see things for themselves. So in the end, they themselves have not evolved internally.
Yep.
Hmm?
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference. That's why science, no matter what equipment they use in the near future, they are still in the realm of matter.
Matter.
They
Yep.
can't go anywhere. Metaphysical, higher realm, whatever it is, the highest point of matter is still within matter, because matter was born. Something else created this, and that something else, the equipment cannot get to it.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you can get to that is transform yourself within yourself and arrive at that on your inner self, not the equipment.
Right. Any other thoughts? Let's see. Okay, secret versus mystery, right? Secrets come and go. We carry our secrets with us until such a time it is divulged, discovered, or purged from our consciousness. A mystery, the timeless mystery of human existence, remains, not hovering over the periphery of our consciousness, but at the very core of our being. Again, the core of our being. So does it mean it is us again to go inside to explore the core of our being? It drives back again. Our conversation is go within, go within, go within the core of who we are, and not be fooled by everything we see outside of us, because everything is within the core of our being. Do y'all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So that is our life journey. That is our job, to keep going into the core of our being, to find the mysteries.
You want to go to the previous slide
Sure.
where it says that if you view humanity from a broader perspective, I mean, in the book, it looked at if you are on a skyscraper and then you look down, then you see people as, going about their businesses. But even if you go beyond that, if you look at the globe, the Earth from space,
Right.
you have a different perspective of all of us.
Yes, definitely. And if you go out, I mean, yeah, maybe that's what the aliens are looking at us and saying, you are fools. What are you doing to yourself? You're just killing your own here.
Yeah,
Yes.
we are all in a small globe floating.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we are not even a globe. We are a speck, a
That's
blue
right.
speck of dust in this infinite cosmos,
Who
in
was
the physical realm.
the recent CEO who went up into space at 90 some years old? I forget his name, and he came out. I mean, he was so humbled. Do you remember? I forget.
Is it
Yeah.
You talk about the star William Shatner?
Yes. Oh, Star. Yeah. And
Star
yeah.
Captain Kirk?
Captain Kirk. Oh my gosh, yes. And if we look at that from that perspective, so broadening our perspective is the key, right? And not to just live in this sheltered world, broaden our perspective as much as we can to see things from a different way.
Yeah, there's another. Have you guys come across Carl Sagan?
No.
He's a Carl
Yeah,
Sagan.
Carl Sagan.
He's a takes so many things. He also study the Secret Doctrine. Now, the thing he say that grabbed me the most is this: in this grand scheme of the cosmos, he said, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. So back to what I was saying about the ocean and a droplet of water. The ocean doesn't know itself until that droplet spud up out of the body of water, go through its journey, and bring back to the ocean again when it's returned with this consciousness of itself. So the ocean borrowed this droplet of water to know itself.
But it's also a mystery, right? Why should even the drop leave the ocean to come back to know itself?
Well, it's just an analogy, but it's like I'm using that instead of using the ray, the sunlight, and the ray. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But
instead of using black water, black water is the original. The body of water is black. That's original. That's us.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that there's so much that we don't know.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
We don't know.
But
maybe we shall know when we get there.
Yes, right, John. But what Carl Sagan say is also the heart of what we call Parabrahm, Brahma and Brahman.
Yeah.
Okay, Brahma is the one that keep on moving, expanding. That is nature. Brahman is the vehicle for Brahma. So in other words, the absolute, and then come back to discover itself is need a vehicle. It is called spiritual soul, which is the Buddha. So for it to discover, to know itself, it needs all this vehicle to experience all the way down to the physical realm, and then at the rock bottom, it come back up. This journey is a way for us, for it to know itself. And when I heard as Carl Sagan say that, I said, oh my God, that's exactly what this whole thing is. He just put that into one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Should we move on to the next one? Bridging the gap. Where does inspiration arise? Not emotional impulses, the rare energy that originates from otherworldly realms, bringing with it the power to elevate consciousness and propel one to engage in altruistic action. Being able to bring sublime forces into expression on the physical plane. Becoming co-worker with nature, And this requires time and effort. 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. And the same analogy can be applied to spiritual life. I think that is spiritual. I mean, here is like Beethoven and the famous musician and artist. Where do they get their inspiration? Is it within them, or is it? Now this reminds me of when we go further and we're talking about the logos, right? From the unmanifested to the manifested. It's coming through them from the unmanifested energy and manifesting through them, out of them. But it takes a certain level of mind, again, for me, it's mind and consciousness to be able to tune in to get that inspiration. Is it, or is it just within us?
No, according to Theosophy, mind come at a later time. In the different differentiation process, mind come at a much later time.
So
Mind, that's when trouble begin.
where does inspiration arise then?
There's no such thing as inspiration in this
Inspiration.
teaching.
Inspiration.
Oh, you mean the musician?
Inspiration.
Where does inspiration come from?
I think I came across some of the reading. He got his inspiration in a dream.
Yeah, but where does dream come from?
So I guess there are several, well, from what I've been told, okay, that inspiration can come from several sources, right? It can come from your inner self to inspire you to do some things. It can come from some thoughts coming from other people, or it can come from energies from more enlightened human entities, or it can even come from the Lord of the world. So there are several sources.
Yeah, sources.
Several sources. The question is tuning ourselves to get these types of inspiration.
Yes.
And it's even said that sometimes when some things are supposed to be discovered, right? The thought wave is sent out, and the people who can attune to it receive it, and then they can discover it, or they can use it to help humanity in some way.
Yes, I agree with that, John. Inspiration can come from different sources, but the mind is involved. You can't just say mind is not there. Mind is involved, tuning in. So I think these great artists and musicians were able to somehow tune in to that inspiration, or whatever the source is, whether it's within themselves or outside or whatever, to bring that and to manifest it, materialize it in this world, so we can enjoy it. The whole world can enjoy it. It's music, art, whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah, I was commenting on when you were expressing the logos, unmanifested,
Okay.
semi-manifested, and then manifested. Mine wasn't there.
Okay.
That's what I was trying. I'm going from the top down.
Okay. But then when we go into the logos, bridging the gap, we see the three logos from the unmanifested to the manifested, the second logos, and the third one is the bridging the gap, isn't it?
Well, okay, so the way I read this gap that he's describing and having to do with an agent. So what happened is Beethoven is an agent, just like Blavatsky is an agent, for the higher realm to reach down to down here to enact whatever that discovery or whatever that you happen to have. In fact, each one of these agents are essentially seeker, right? And that's why it say here that 90% perspiration, that literally mean that seeker had to invest the effort and time into it. And the more they invest in time and effort into it, they are more attuned to these frequency, that thoughts or whatever that inspiration happened to be. And that's why they are able to pick it up, as opposed to someone else that did not invest in that time and effort. They're no longer, attuned to that frequency to pick it up.
And this is a classic example because Beethoven was deaf, and not that he used his all of his five senses, right, to create music, to let us know that we don't need all five senses and if we apply the same 90% perspiration to our spiritual life, whatever that is, to the spiritual life, we can aspire to ascend in ourselves to a higher consciousness.
One thing I learned from one of my old folks, teacher, was we are essentially hand and feet for the master to use.
Yes.
So essentially, we are the expression that animate into this world. So they can choose to use whoever that is most beneficial to them. So if there's an easy way for them to use this person over another person, then they will become the hand and feet of the master.
Jesse, did you have something?
This is all very fascinating. There's this scientist named Rupert Sheldrake. I don't know if anyone's heard of him, but he's got a theory, and it's, of course, by other scientists, is just completely marginalized. And other scientists think that he's basically a heretic. And as we were talking about these wise people, the man is incredibly intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
One of the theories is called morphic resonance. And this got me the whole where does inspiration arise from question. So I started thinking about Isaac Newton, and I think it was Descartes, or was it Leibniz, that came up with calculus at the same time, essentially. And they were thousands of miles apart. But they were inspired to create this new tool for science to use, the calculus. Well, morphic resonance deals with different species of animals that exhibit behaviors that are similar and are, but these individual animals are separated by vast distances. One bird will learn a new behavior, just like skimming the cream off of the milk bottles when the milkman drops them off. One will do it, and it's never been seen before, and then suddenly all of the other birds of the same species will start doing it. There's no way for them to communicate. Say, hey, go skim the cream off the milk.
Yeah.
It's up here. It's within the creatures.
Yeah.
It's
intuitive to them.
Right. So yeah, this is just. I just wanted to say this is fascinating to me.
That's great. Thank you, Jesse, for the input. And
Yeah.
overall, so just from 1 through 8, that we're giving an overall picture from what I see is all of us to just become more intuitive, right? Become more intuitive to connect to the source, and we all can be an agent. We are all agents of something if we are more intuitive and we can connect to that frequency. If Beethoven did it, all of us have that capability, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But what I like is the last sentence here. What's really interesting is the Secret Doctrine states that no one individual can escape its unconscious mission to get rid of the burden to its cooperative work with nature. So we see that the thing is to work in alignment with nature. And I think one of the biggest problems is we as human beings, we've become so far, we're living so far from nature. Not probably consciously, but unconsciously, we have removed ourselves from being close to nature, right? And so reminds me of conscious living, increasing our intuition to be in alignment.
Well, that we think that we are moving away from our true nature. Our true nature can never be removed. It wasn't created in the first place, so it can't be removed.
Not remove, but maybe not listening to our true nature voice, or nature meaning even not just human nature, our true nature, but even nature of the earth.
Yes, it's going back to that separation. Delusionally, we think we are separate, but in reality, we are not.
Yeah, you're right. So
Okay.
maybe I worded it wrong. So we are still, I mean, it's still there, but unconsciously, yes. I mean, we have, so now the effort is to consciously come back to our true nature and live in accordance with nature. Consciously. It's conscious living.
Okay. So Shanthi, we reached noon already. So do you want to maybe postpone this to January to continue, or how you want to do this?
Well, it's up to you. Anybody else is free to take the next, I don't know, 8 chapters. There's 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. There's be 3 people who would do this.
Oh, do we have to get off at noon?
Yes,
Thursday?
I have a, yes, I'm going, it's my birthday. I want to go to lunch.
Me too.
I'm hungry. Okay, we can stop the recording, I guess. They don't need to
Okay.
hear.
Let me go ahead and stop the recording.